Alongside Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price for this 2-minute drill, Cade Mays Freed Edition, as the SEC announcing on this Wednesday night that they have granted eligibility to Malik Gatewood at Kentucky, to Cade Mays, citing COVID and the circumstances surrounding this year. What a big addition for Tennessee to get a former 5-star, a guy that's played a lot of football at the University of Georgia, back on the field and not just on the practice team this fall.
Yeah, a huge addition for Tennessee, and we'll talk a bit about kind of where he fits in here as we go through this 2-minute drill. I think it's important to note, Austin, in the release by the SEC, that this is not a change in the rule, not a change in policy of the bylaws. And there was so much talk earlier this week that there was going to be a vote among the presidents. It never became a vote. Commissioner Sankey, who implied that he was not in the business of giving waivers and suggested 2 weeks ago that it had to be a change in policy, actually granted the waivers, did not say that he approved of the reasons for their transferring, but approved the waiver because of COVID, mental health, and some of the things that Jeremy Pruitt has talked about. They will revisit the one-time transfer waiver and how that affects the conference moving forward. But this is not a change in policy. This is just a straight for two guys to be eligible immediately in the SEC. The commissioner signed off on doing that today, which is different than what we thought this week and how this week was going to unfold.
Whatever works, Brent. At the end of the day, for all these kids, and again, I've maintained the whole time, it's not a Cade thing. It's just all these kids. And really, it should be kids coming from out of conference. It shouldn't, just be a three kid thing. The kid at South Carolina that was ineligible, as long as you have, especially if you have the NCAA waiver, they should have always been granted ability to play, especially when eligibility doesn't count. So I'm glad to see that smarter heads prevailed, common sense heads prevailed, and these kids across the conference will get a chance to play this year and not be watching from the sidelines.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Give Jeremy Pruitt, Philip Fulmer, and Chancellor Plowman credit for this. They never made this a big public spectacle and openly challenged anybody. Coach Pruitt made it clear where his stance was on it. Coach Fulmer never made a public comment about it. But we know he's been in conversations with the league office, and so is Chancellor Plowman. Back to what you were saying earlier and what it means for Tennessee, Austin, I'll ask you, what does it mean for Tennessee? Is he Tennessee's starting right tackle Saturday against Missouri? Coach Pruitt saying tonight, well, he's been working second team through fall camp just in case. What do you think it means for this offensive lineup and what the starting line will look like against Missouri on Saturday?
Yeah, I think so. I think Tennessee will likely give him the start at right tackle. If not, I think they will play him within the first two possessions. I think you'll see a quick entrance to the football game if he were to not be the starter coming up on Saturday. So, he can play at right guard. He can play at right tackle. I think it's definitely on the right side. But I think, knowing where Tennessee was on Saturday night, probably a little more comfortable with where they, with what they got done at right guard than right tackle, which means I think he probably plays right tackle coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, it would make the most sense, because that's a position, both tackle positions, Coach Pruitt talked about after the game and on Monday that they need to get more consistency there. Look, I mean, the thing that they're getting with Cade is they're getting a guy who we know is going to go through the whistle. He's going to play hard. He's got a ton of experience in the SEC. He's a mature guy from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint. He knows this offense because of his days at Georgia. He's got a good relationship with the guys who he would be playing beside if it's Carbon, and obviously he knows Trey Smith really well as well. Would feel like, Austin, I think, a pretty seamless transition to make that move, even if you make that, quote, starting lineup move on a Wednesday night heading into a game 48 hours or 72 hours from now.
Well, the best thing they got going for him is he's been practicing this whole time. So he's been out there at right tackle, at right guard. He's practiced at left tackle. He's practiced basically just about everywhere but Trey's spot and Brandon Kennedy's spot. And those are the two locked-in guys along the offensive line. So Tennessee gets Cade Mays eligible. My kids are starting to make noise, and so thus it's time to bail out of this one. For Brent Hubbs, who will have Coach Pruitt on Vol calls coming up at 8 o'clock. Listen on all those local Vol Network affiliates. I'm Austin Price. Cade Mays eligible on this Wednesday night. He'll suit up on Saturday against Missouri.